Ashley McArthur. She's accused of murdering Pentacola private investigator Taylor Wright.
I don't know where she is.
Where's her body at?
I don't know where she is.
She's dead though. You know that?
I want you to look at her. Just look at her in the daylight. You didn't get to see her in the daylight.
When we told Ramon that he was going to have to lay inside of a ditch and wear makeup, he was kind of in disbelief.
Yeah, right here. I still remember like it was yesterday. This is where I literally walked on my own grave.
When people fall in love, they are sometimes willing to overlook a lot of things about that other person. There may be red flags telling them that maybe they should stay away, but if their love is strong enough, they might choose to ignore them until it could be too late. That's what happened when the spouses in these stories realized that their partners were not the people they thought they married.
And a tragic update out of Escambia County, Florida tonight. The body of a private investigator missing for more than a month has been found.
Saying that body they found around noon today is believed to be that of Taylor Wright.
Deputies have charged Wright's friend, Ashley McArthur, with second-degree murder.
This story shows that greed and a desire for money can ruin anything, even the relationship between two supposed best friends. But what makes this case particularly interesting, and unlike most cases that have happened before, is the fact that both the killer and the victim worked in the area of criminal justice as part of their job. Taylor Wright was a private investigator and Ashley McArthur was a crime scene technician. They had probably studied and worked on hundreds of criminal cases in the past. They must have thought that they had heard and seen it all. But did they ever suspect that they would be at the center of a highly talked about murder trial themselves? Probably not.
Hey, Zach, your wife is, she's being arrested this evening and charged with murder.
What?
Can you imagine getting that call and finding out that the person you thought you married is actually not someone you know at all, but actually a cold-hearted killer?
Ashley McArthur. She's accused of murdering Pentacola private investigator Taylor Wright.
I don't know where she is.
Where's her body at?
I don't know where she is.
She's dead though. You know that?
Think about your best friend, and then think about what you would do for that person. If you are really best friends with them, there probably isn't much that you wouldn't do for them. Now imagine that your best friend is missing, and it is you who law enforcement think is behind her disappearance.
You had a young woman, Taylor Wright, that was murdered. There was no question about that. She was shot in the back of the head and buried.
Do you know where Taylor Wright is? Do you know if Taylor Wright's dead? Did you kill Taylor Wright?
So how did things get so twisted, and who is really the one to blame? First, we have to take a look back in time. Taylor Wright was a 33-year-old hardworking single mom of an 8-year-old boy. She was going through a particularly nasty divorce when she ended up connecting with another woman named Cassandra Waller, and they soon started a relationship together. The feelings they felt for one another developed quickly, and it wasn't long before they started living together.
We met on an online dating app. We were in a relationship for a short period of time, but enough time to have sincere feelings and to say that I love this person, and she's told me she loved me back.
But things were not exactly smooth in their new relationship. Taylor had quite a few problems that she was dealing with. She had a substance use problems that those close to her knew about. She and her ex-husband were also still in a messy custody battle, and Taylor had recently taken a large sum of money out of the account that she and her ex shared together. In order to keep the money away from him, Taylor asked her friend Ashley McArthur to hide the money temporarily in her own bank account, which she agreed to. Obviously, this was going to lead to legal problems for Taylor.
So the night before Taylor went missing, we went out to eat, and Taylor was just really stressed out. She was talking about how Ashley was holding on to this money, that Taylor needed to get it back, and she felt awkward about it. She felt like something wasn't right.
Obviously, Taylor had never wanted Ashley to keep the money she gave her. She just wanted her to hold it for a while and then give it back. But why wasn't Ashley giving it back? Something was sketchy, but still Cassandra had no reason to suspect that the person she loved could be in any danger. She remembers exactly what the last exchange she had with Taylor was like.
And we gave each other a hug and a kiss, and at that time I'm walking out of my driveway, Ashley pulls up. I say, "Hey, Ash," and she's like, "Hey, Cassandra," and I said, you guys have a good day. I got in my car and I drove away. That was the last time I ever saw Taylor.
A few hours later, Cassandra received a call from Ashley. Ashley told her that Taylor was just really stressed out about her divorce, and the two of them had decided to take a trip out of the country to go horseback riding. Cassandra was surprised to hear this because, according to Taylor, the plan had been for Taylor and Ashley to just go to the bank together and then head straight back. Later that evening, Cassandra got some upsetting text messages from Taylor. She was talking about how she needed to think and she was wanting to get her life back in order. These sounded similar to breakup texts.
I'm thinking Taylor's telling me that she needs time to herself and she's not including her partner, and that hurt my feelings.
Cassandra was feeling a mixture of emotions. First of all, she was angry and upset, and then as the days started passing by and she still hadn't heard anything else from Taylor, Cassandra started to get worried as well. Could something have happened to her? About a week later, Taylor was reported as a missing person, and Cassandra was one of the first people that detectives wanted to speak to. She remembered feeling embarrassed that law enforcement would even suspect her of doing anything to hurt Taylor.
We're trying to find out why your girlfriend's disappeared.
And here I am in this room that they would use to interrogate people, and it's padded walls. It's a place you don't want to be.
Cassandra had no way of knowing where she could be on the detective's list of potential suspects.
I can't help but be scared that I'm going to get in trouble for something that I did when I was trying to help.
They didn't hesitate to ask Cassandra the hard-hitting questions.
If you knew who harmed her, would you tell us?
Absolutely.
If she was dead right now and you knew, would you tell us?
I don't know.
Did you harm her?
No.
The next person to be called in to be interrogated was Ashley McArthur, the last person who was believed to have seen Taylor alive. Ashley seems perfectly calm and is willing to do whatever necessary to cooperate and be helpful to law enforcement. She tells them that she doubts that it's anything bad actually happening to Taylor.
The only thing I worry about is with the situation. Like, I wouldn't even, if I didn't know about the situation, I wouldn't be worried about her. I would say Taylor's doing what Taylor does. But then that lifestyle becomes a different group of people.
What Taylor might not have known at the time was that Cassandra had already told law enforcement about the safety deposit box that Taylor had supposedly had Ashley put in that huge chunk of money she'd taken from her account. But when they asked Ashley about it, they said it never happened, and that Taylor had never given her any money to hold on to. The detective began going over with Ashley all the things that she and Taylor had done together before Taylor's disappearance. They also looked at video surveillance, which showed Ashley stopping by a gas station in the middle of nowhere. Ashley told them that they had stopped there because Taylor had wanted to get a beer.
Have you ever seen her drinking at that time of day before? That was odd behavior.
And in fact, I said something to her. I was like, beer at this time of the morning? She was like, well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
A month passed by, and there was still no sign of Taylor. Nobody had seen or heard from her. Ashley would sometimes check in with law enforcement to ask for updates, but they didn't have one to give her. But another thing that Ashley might not have realized was the fact that she was slowly becoming one of the prime suspects in the case. This was partially because law enforcement had already taken a look at cell phone data. The cell phone data was able to show Ashley's past locations, and what they discovered was pretty interesting. Ashley's true whereabouts leading up to where Taylor went missing were different from what she had told detectives. She and Taylor had never gone to a special spot to go horseback riding like she had claimed. But that isn't all. Ashley also lied about the money that she had gotten from Taylor. She really had taken that chunk of money and deposited it into her own account. There was a record showing she did. So why did she lie? It was time to confront her once again.
You know, we've turned up some things that we don't really know what to think at this point.
But as you can see, Ashley still doesn't seem to be scared. She's just nodding her head as if she was expecting the detective to be telling her this.
The ability to plot all your phone calls for that day. But when we started plotting all the phone calls that you and Taylor were making that day, there were some discrepancies in what you had told us.
Ashley admits that there was a safety deposit box, but that the reason she hadn't told law enforcement that before was because Taylor had told her to always keep that matter between just the two of them.
So you're the only one that was with her on this day at this farm that you did not disclose to
at that farm, we're going to find her because we're executing a search warrant out there right now.
That's fine, but she's not going to be there.
At this point, Ashley still seems pretty composed, but it also seems as if she knows that she is starting to get into some pretty dangerous territory. It's at this point that she decides she needs an attorney before she answers any more questions. It wasn't long after Ashley left the station that law enforcement got a disturbing phone call. It was not the outcome anyone had hoped for.
And a tragic update out of Escambia County, Florida tonight. The body of a private investigator missing for more than a month has been found.
The body found in a shallow grave at the Britt Road family farm, covered with concrete and potting soil.
Ashley McArthur was now finally arrested and charged in connection with Taylor's murder. Bridget Jensen, the prosecutor in this case, knew it was going to be a challenge to try to convince a jury that Ashley was guilty. First of all, Ashley had never confessed, and she had never said anything to incriminate herself beyond reasonable doubt. But she also simply didn't look like a killer.
I think one of the most difficult things to overcome was Ashley herself. She was this very small, very pretty, kind of meek, quiet-spoken female who'd never been in trouble. So from the outside looking in, no one would think that she would do something like this.
There was also the question of the motive. Why would Ashley do this to her friend? Well, the prosecutor said she had a perfectly good reason to kill Taylor. It was because Taylor wanted her money back, and Ashley couldn't give it back because she had already spent it. In court, Cassandra was called to testify.
Do you see Ashley McArthur in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please point to her and identify what she's wearing?
She's right here. She's wearing a black outfit.
And then I looked at Ashley. Ashley never looked at me. Ashley was always looking down at her scribble pad.
Ashley's defense tried to plant an idea in the jury's head that maybe it was Cassandra that had done something to Taylor. Maybe she was jealous or mad that she was spending time with another woman.
It's gotta be clear as day that I have nothing to do with this. And the fact that they still played that I could have possibly been somebody for the jury, that could have ruined my reputation, my professional career. They'll throw anything and everything out there.
Before long, people started coming forward as witnesses that say Ashley isn't as innocent as she may look, and she had made some incriminating comments in the past.
What did you hear Ashley say?
That this world would be better if Taylor wasn't here and that she wasn't a good person.
And it wasn't like it was just one comment that Ashley had made. There were quite a few of them.
One time she said that she's too small to hurt anybody, she just
Ashley apparently wasn't the type of person who could keep her mouth closed when it came to talking about her crimes. She even confessed to one of her friends that she had put an illegal substance into Taylor's drink before, but Taylor realized that her drink didn't taste right and spit it out. If she was capable of spiking a friend's drink, it wouldn't be surprising that she could also be capable of killing Taylor, right? Even though Ashley had a longtime boyfriend named Zach, she had also been having a secret affair with another man named Brandon, and she had been spending a lot of money on him. In fact, she had bought him both a boat and a motorcycle. Can you imagine being Zach and finding out that not only is your new wife accused of murder, but she's been cheating on you with someone else for who knows how long? Ashley had told Brandon about Taylor, or at least some of the story. Things were looking pretty good for the prosecution, who wouldn't believe that Ashley was guilty. But the prosecutor wanted to be extra sure that the jury had all the information they needed before they made their decision. That's why she decided it was important that they listen to nearly all of the many hours of footage of Ashley being interrogated.
Ashley was almost kind of flirty, maybe a little playful with law enforcement.
Has she ever come on to you or?
Taylor asked me one time if I would have a threesome with her and some guy, and I'm like, no thank you.
But it was very clear that by the end of her time being interrogated, Ashley's demeanor was completely different, because she probably had realized at that point that she was likely caught.
So it was good, I think, for the jury to see that she had lied, and she got caught up in her lies and couldn't come up with excuses fast enough.
It wasn't a completely perfect case against Ashley. There were still some questions that couldn't really be answered. For example, the bag of concrete that Ashley supposedly used to bury Taylor with weighed at least 50 pounds. It would have been very difficult for Ashley, who had a back injury, to manage carrying not only that bag of concrete, but Taylor's dead body.
I think it definitely was hard to picture how this little girl could move a dead body. But at the same time, Taylor was not a big girl either. I think where there's a will, there's a way.
Finally, both sides rested their case, and it was time for Ashley's things to be handed over to the jury. You could have heard a pin drop. It was so quiet in the courtroom as the verdict was read aloud on August 30th of 2019.
Verdict as to the charge in count 1, we the jury find the defendant, Ashley McArthur, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm as charged in the indictment. So say we all.
After 2 years, things were finally close to being over.
So I was trying to fight back all the tears and all the emotions and everything that I had been through.
Ashley was given one more chance to speak.
Ms. McArthur, I want to make sure that I ask you personally, do you want to say anything to the court? Okay. All right.
Now that she had been found guilty, it was time to move immediately to the sentencing phase. Ashley was seconds away from finding out what was to become of the rest of her life.
Ashley McArthur, having been found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by a jury of your peers of first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm, I am going to adjudicate you guilty. I'm going to sentence you to life with a mandatory minimum 25 years state prison.
Finally, Taylor and her loved ones had at long last gotten justice. It was a case that shocked the community of Roswell, Georgia. In August of 2016, 2 teenagers were found dead in an alley behind a Publix grocery store. The victims, Natalie Henderson and Carter Davis, were both just 17 years old. The teens had been followed into the alley by a criminal who saw an opportunity. After killing them, he stole Carter's wallet and jumper cables off their vehicle. The young man who was accused of robbing and killing them was 27-year-old Jeffrey Hazelwood. He was a young man with a dark past.
Developing this afternoon, we have new insight into the man accused of murdering 2 teenagers behind a Roswell shopping center. The former attorney for his family tells us his mother raised him in an unfit environment.
Jeffrey's childhood was reportedly nothing short of horrific.
The prosecutors will take the case, the double murder case of Jeffrey Hazelwood, before a grand jury here in 11 days. His mental capacity is sure to come up. I talked to an attorney who says his mother may have contributed to his mental decline by raising him in a bad environment.
Could Jeffrey's very dark start of life had contributed to the monster that he would become later?
She was a remarkably poor parent.
Attorney Kenneth Shadden says the mother of accused murderer Jeffrey Hazelwood was raising him in an environment that no parent should raise a child in.
Jeffrey's defense lawyer claimed that his mother had exposed him to many terrible things.
Shadden says Hazelwood's grandparents saw what was going on and hired him to get custody of their grandson. The grandparents got custody, but Shadden doesn't think Hazelwood got the help he needed to overcome living with his mother.
There had been warning signs that suggested that Jeffrey was heading down a bad path, even earlier on in life. When he was just 16 years old, he stole weapons from his grandparents' safe. He also made statements about his plan to hurt people. They reported this, but it doesn't seem as if much was done to try to keep the public safe from this clearly unstable person. Even though Jeffrey's life was difficult, it wasn't without love. In fact, he had been married, even though it wasn't the traditional sort of marriage that most people have heard of. Her name was Kelsey Bonham.
Bonham? Okay, so you guys don't have the same last name?
We got married in our religion.
Okay.
Well, not legally, but to us, it is.
Okay. When did y'all get married?
You put me in the back.
Kelsey was brought in for questioning. Even though she was an adult, her mother came into the room with her. This was unusual but allowed because Kelsey had special needs. She was hard of hearing and also had frequent seizures. It becomes clear pretty quickly that Kelsey's mom is not much a fan of her daughter's so-called marriage to Jeffrey.
Does he ever stay over at y'all's house overnight at all? Is that something that
he has with her. I really don't know much about the boy at all.
Okay.
Kelsey explained that one thing that was kind of unusual about Jeffrey was that he was a believer in spirit animals, and that he felt that his were a hawk and a wolf. These are both animals that prey on others. Could Jeffrey have enjoyed thinking about himself as a predator?
Have you ever seen him carrying a firearm or have one in the car at all?
While Kelsey might not be lying, it does seem that she might not know Jeffrey as well as she thought she did. Meanwhile, a detective is trying to get Jeffrey to break by basically telling them that he had evidence of him and his car and the crime scene. And there was nothing else they needed, so he might as well confess. The detective tried to connect with him emotionally by making him imagine that it was his wife that had been horribly murdered. Then they showed him a picture of Natalie, one of his victims' dead body.
What if somebody did this to Kelsey? Then what? Then what? What would you want to happen to the person that did this to Kelsey? If this was Kelsey's picture, and they her, and they laid her out naked on the ground.
He seems to be getting more and more upset, visibly shaking and crying.
I want you to look at her. Just look at her in the daylight. You didn't get to see her in the daylight.
But Jeffrey couldn't look at what he had done. Meanwhile, Kelsey is getting more and more distressed and confused the more she finds out about the situation. It's clear that she had no idea what her husband was capable of. Now he was being accused of murder, and she was overwhelmed.
I have to be truthful with these policemen, okay? I know. Okay, then you guys tell me everything they want to know, okay? He told me that Jeff, they did one person, I don't know that. This is very important, okay? Because I'm scared now.
But aside from trusting Jeffrey, Kelsey had done nothing wrong. Unable to take the pressure anymore, Jeffrey finally confessed to the murders. But he didn't want to talk about too many of the details.
Remember how she fell down? Did she fall down backwards or did she fall down forwards? Okay. Okay.
Law enforcement now had a confession, but his mental state would play an important role on whether or not Jeffrey would be found guilty. He had to be examined by a mental health professional, but it was eventually decided that he was mentally competent to stand trial. A jury would later convict Jeffrey of the murders, and he was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole.
He said, no, I'm serious. I've seen that look in people's eye when they want to kill somebody, and she wants to have you killed.
She's probably one of the coldest individuals that I've run across in my law enforcement career.
She used her mind games to get to me.
Ramon Sosa thought he had it all. He had a beautiful life and much to be grateful for. His business was successful and he had a beautiful wife, Lulu, and a loving family. But he would soon learn that the person he thought he married was a complete monster. And not only that, but he would be the one who would have to help law enforcement bring her down.
When we told Ramon that he was going to have to lay inside of a ditch and wear makeup, he was kind of in disbelief.
Yeah, right here. I still remember like it was yesterday. This is where I literally walked on my own grave.
Ramon met Lulu in 2007, and she instantly caught his eye. She was beautiful and a wonderful dancer. There were red flags, but he pretended not to see them.
We had a small wedding, and I never forget her mother walking up to me, just whispered in my ear, "Now she's your trouble," and walked away.
Things between the two started out okay. They had a successful business together.
Hi guys, my name is Lulu Sosa.
And I'm Ramon Sosa, head coach, boxing. Welcome to Women's Boxing and Fitness.
But Ramon soon noticed that his wife didn't seem to need him anymore. She was doing well financially, and she wanted to do things on her own.
It was going downhill quick. There was no option but to go get a divorce.
There was a man named Mundo who sometimes hung out around the gym. He happened to be talking about people he knew from Mexico. He brought up one particular man who was basically a paid assassin. He would chop up people in exchange for money. It could have been nothing more than a story he had heard, but Lulu apparently took it seriously. Too seriously. She called up Mundo, and what she asked him for was shocking. The next day, Mundo called Ramon and told him what Lulu had said to him.
Hey, Pops, you know this lady, she wants to kill you. And I said, what are you talking about? Talking about Lulu. No, she wants to kill you.
It was true. Lulu wanted their business and money all to herself, and she was willing to have Ramon killed in order to get it. Ramon went to law enforcement to tell them what was going on, but they said they couldn't just arrest her right away. They would have to catch her in the act. They ended up coming up with a plan. It would involve an undercover cop posing as a hitman and Ramon having to fake his own death. The fake hitman spoke to Lulu in a secretly recorded conversation. She told him about how much money and other valuables she would be willing to give up in exchange for Ramon's murder. She said she would pay some of the money up front and then would hand the rest over once she had proof that Ramon was dead.
He had the life insurance. He already knew how much I was worth after I died. Out of all things, he gave him watches and wedding bands and bracelets, my own jewelry as a down payment for my own murder.
The detectives in this case weren't going to do things halfway. They were going to make sure that they made Lulu believe that her husband had really been killed.
Where they dug the grave, you can still see the hole, even though weeds have grown up. Brings back a lot of bad memories, man. Sad, sad memories coming over here.
And so they put fake blood on Ramon and then made him climb into a grave that they had dug for him. He had to lay in the grave and pretend to be dead so that the pictures they took of him would look realistic. And sure enough, the pictures did the trick.
And I get upset about how Lulu reacted when the officer showed her the picture of me dead.
No se levanta ya.
She started laughing and raising her hands, and I tell people like she hit the lotto. This is her big shot.
Even though Ramon knew that his wife had been planning it, it still hurt to see her act this way. This was the woman he had fallen in love with, and here she was celebrating his death. He had never really known her at all. They gave Lulu one last chance to tell the truth.
When's the last time you saw Mr. Sosa?
We saw him on Wednesday 15th, the last day.
The recording of Lulu denying that she had any idea where her husband was the last piece of evidence that law enforcement had been waiting on. Now they had everything they needed, and Lulu was about to find out that she hadn't outsmarted anyone after all.
Okay, Miss Sosa, stand up, please. You're under arrest. Okay, you're under arrest.
Why?
Okay. Ma'am, it's okay. Stay back. We have a warrant.
There was no reason for Lulu to even go to trial. There was so much evidence against her that it would have been pointless. So she took a plea deal and was sentenced to 20 years behind bars. If she hadn't taken that deal, she probably would have gotten life in prison.
I remember at the hearing when she was sentenced, it was a packed courthouse, a lot of media were there, and I forgave her. It was just a release of all of the pressure, and I walked away. And she never looked at me once.
Ramon realizes that things easily could have turned out differently. If it wasn't for Mundo interfering, maybe he really would have ended up dead because of his wife's greed.
And I will forever be in debt to Mundo for saving my life.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.